Good morning. Get comfortable. Screech on the marble floor. Do everything necessary. It's the soundtrack of the hotel that's screeching on the marble floor. Chairs, beds, furniture. Constantly screeching on the marble floor. All the speech of awakened awareness. The screeching on the marble floor and all other sounds, no matter what they may be. But you know, when it comes down to who we are as human beings, all we are is awakened awareness, vast as infinite space. That's all we are, that's all we've ever been. So what is awakened awareness, vast as infinite space? Awakened awareness is pure space that has never known any division, exclusion, or extreme. So we could say that awakened awareness is our pure view, our vantage, or our balanced view of everything that's going on. Awakened awareness is the pure view or balanced view, but because it includes all points of view as its dynamic energy. So whatever the points of view are of the pure view of awareness, they're just the dynamic energy of awareness and nothing else. Just as the color blue is inseparable from the sky, so all the dynamic energy of awareness, called points of view, is inseparable from that. And unless we have that all-encompassing view of omniscience, we will not be clear on what's going on. It's as simple as that. We won't be clear on what's going on with us as a human being, and we won't be clear on what's going on in our world. So how can we know that we are this? How can we really know that we are awakened awareness, pure space, vast as infinite space, in which all points of view are included, contained, and subsumed? Not only what we've taken to be our own personal points of view, but all points of view altogether. And not just all points of view altogether, but all points of view of past, present, and future, included, contained, and subsumed in omniscient, timeless awareness. To know that we are that requires only that we rest naturally without seeking anything. That's it. When a point of view comes up, instead of jumping into it and then hitchhiking from one point of view to another, we just rest naturally. We rest naturally without seeking anything, without describing anything. And as we do so, our omniscience, our omniscient mind, that is the true nature of our mind, becomes more and more obvious. And as that becomes more and more obvious, more and more we have a balanced view, instead of living our entire lifetime based on our opinions, our own points of view. So, you know, first of all, we have this point of view called a personal identity. Well, the personal identity, it's equal to all the other points of view. The personal identity point of view isn't like a hard drive or warehouse or storage container for all the other points of view. It's just a point of view equal to every other point of view. It's a point of view we seldom have. So, you know, when we rest naturally without seeking anything, immediately the essence of our being is naked. It's completely naked. The ground of our being is completely naked. And it doesn't need to push anything away or pull anything towards it, because it's so obvious in that natural rest that everything is inseparable from it. That all the points of view, no matter what they are awakened awareness. So, are we trying to get ourselves into a state of natural rest? No, we're not trying to contrive some kind of state of natural rest. We're sitting, resting naturally, trying to hold on to it for hours on end. That isn't what the practice of natural rest is. The practice of natural rest is uncontrived. That means initially, just as often as we remember to do it, we rest naturally without describing anything. We take rest as best as our credo or mantra. That becomes the essence of the way we're living, no matter what we're doing. We don't need to change anything in our lives to rest. In fact, if we make any changes, then we'll just add more points of view in as seeming antidotes to try to get enlightened or to try to be aware. The reality of what we are is already present. It's already present, and no point of view whatsoever that is included and contained within awakened awareness is evidence that anyone isn't awakened awareness. So there's no point of view whatsoever anywhere of all the countless, ceaseless, unpredictable points of view that is evidence that anyone is not awakened awareness. So even the point of view of not recognizing awakened awareness, or not recognizing that it's even possible to be awakened awareness, all those points of view too are not evidence that anyone isn't awakened awareness. It matters not. Awakened awareness, in being timeless, has no time frame. It has no sequence of sooner or later. So to say 1 minute, oh, I recognize awareness, and another minute, I don't recognize awareness, well, in timeless awareness, both of those points of view are equal. They're absolutely equal. They're not one better than the other, one worse than the other. All points of view are equal, with no sooner or later or better or worse. So all the points of view we may have taken ourselves to be, no matter what they are, and no matter how much time we've spent trying to organize all our points of view. So we have a lot of good points of view and not many bad points of view, and then we just don't care about the neutral points of view. All the time we spend trying to organize the points of view, it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You know, no matter how, do you know what the Titanic is? It's that ship that sank and all the people died. Well, you know, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, that's not gonna do anything. You know, it's really a hopeless, silly antidote, isn't it? The ship's going down, oh, I think I'll rearrange all the chairs, and then maybe the ship won't go down. Well, that, you know, better to jump in the lifeboat. Well, the lifeboat is natural rest, and this lifeboat is equal, it's an equal opportunity lifeboat. So everyone, no matter who they are, they have an equal opportunity to be in the lifeboat or not. To be the lifeboat. Actually, awakened awareness is the lifeboat. So it's up to us in each moment to either rest naturally as the essence of our being, and as we do so in a totally uncontrived way, that becomes permanent. Now, if you don't want to rest, natural rest is the most difficult of all the practices in the Great Freedom Teaching. That's the most difficult of everything that's suggested. Would you like to hear the other things that are less difficult? One is just to show up here. If you just show up here and you keep showing up here with a commitment to know yourself as awakened awareness, it will just dawn on you without you doing anything. I can guarantee this. I can guarantee it, 100% guarantee. I've seen it happen over and over again. And if you don't want to show up here, just think about it. Just think about being here. Think about being here. Yeah, now this sounds way too easy, doesn't it? It sounds way too easy because when we've adopted an opinion about ourselves that we live only within the realm of cause and effect, and everything is due to cause and effect, then we think that when it comes to enlightenment, enlightenment's due to cause and effect. So we have to get some causes in place, some really heavy-duty causes, that are going to have the effect of enlightenment. Because we learn in cause and effect living that anything good that we want to get requires a lot of work. Just to grow up, that really requires a lot of work, doesn't it? It requires a lot of work. We go through all that thinking, all those emotions, puberty, oh my gosh, all these other things. And then not only that, puberty, but then we've got to get a job or go to college, and then we've got to get married and have children. And each time we do one of these things, we think, oh, this is it. This is it, I'm going to feel better now. I'm going to feel satisfied and fulfilled. When I get my own money, that's another one. Don't have to rely on my parents' money anymore. I'll get my own money. They won't be able to control it. It'll be my money. Then I'll be satisfied and fulfilled. So all these things we look to for satisfaction and fulfillment, and with each one we get, oh dear, you know, it's not the source of satisfaction and fulfillment. Has anyone ever gotten married thinking that's the satisfaction and fulfillment factor in life? Has anyone ever had a baby thinking that's the satisfaction and fulfillment factor in life? Well, you know, all these. Has anyone ever done yoga thinking that's the satisfaction and fulfillment factor? Oh, lots of people, lots more than had babies or got married. How about looking for love, someone to love us? Has anyone ever looked for that? Wow, that's even bigger than yoga. Okay, well. So, you know, we look to all these things, but every single one of them, it leaves us totally disheartened, because unless we go into that thing already realizing that we're awakened awareness and whatever it is we're engaging is awakened awareness too, there'll never be any satisfaction and fulfillment there. And when it comes to a relationship, those of you who are not in a relationship, get to know yourselves as awakened awareness before you even consider a relationship. And if you're already in a relationship, it doesn't matter what your partner's doing. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter if they continue to regurgitate all kinds of points of view forever. You can rest as awareness in that situation. It matters not. Because awareness is not circumstance dependent. Awareness is beyond cause and effect, but includes cause and effect. So awareness is not circumstance dependent. Awareness, awakened awareness, is all-inclusive, and it's that which includes all. So there's nothing within awareness, none of its dynamic energy. We talk about it very simply here, just points of view. None of its points of view has any way at all of affecting awareness, because it is awareness. How could it affect awareness? It can't have a negative effect. It can't have a positive effect. It can have an enlightened effect in that every point of view, no matter what it is, because it already is awareness, it has total recall about itself as awareness. So we don't have to do anything. We don't have to coax our points of view or prod them with a stick in order to get them to know that they are awareness. Every point of view already has total recall about itself as awareness. I have a little story about this poking point of view to try to make it into something, you know, to try to make it into a spiritual point of view, or to try to dress it up or fix it up in some way, elaborate it with other descriptions. And this is a story about a leopard that they found in Rishikesh. The leopard was at the bus stop, and it was a big leopard, like as long as that bank of windows. It was a big leopard, and it was just sitting there at the bus stop. Who knows what it was doing there? It crossed the Ganga, and it took up residence there at the bus stop. So everyone was trying to get the leopard to leave town, because leopards are dangerous. So they did everything. They'd go, shoo, shoo, they'd all get to, but the leopard wouldn't move. They squirted it with water. They opened it didn't go anywhere. They opened a path, and the leopard still wouldn't move. So one man took a spear, a stick, you know, with the point on the end, that's a spear, and he started poking the leopard. Wrong thing to do. Poking the leopard is the wrong thing to do. Poking the point of view is the wrong thing to do. The leopard attacked the man. The leopard attacked the man. So this is our, if we take points of view to be something, only their description, then we end up like the man attacked by the leopard. We end up totally besieged by points of view all of our life and feeling that there's no way out. But there is never a way out of awakened awareness. That's what we never have a way out of. But unless we take it on ourselves to know that as our very essence, to know that as our true nature, then we'll spend our entire lives not really understanding who we are. So conclusively, to realize who we really are, this practice of natural rest is the easiest. It's the easiest and the most straightforward. It's freedom in immediate perception. And when we find the freedom in one perception, what that means is a perception, a point of view, and perception and point of view are synonymous. A perception arises, we're aware of what it is, we just simply rest as the essence of that perception, the awakened awareness that is the essence of that perception. If we see only the label, then we don't know the true nature of the point of view. We have to know that the point of view has no independent origin other than awareness. So the point of view has never had any origin whatsoever than awareness. It didn't come from somewhere else. It didn't come from a sphere, a scope outside awareness. Awareness is inclusive of everything. So all points of view, no matter what they are awareness, no matter their vivid description, no matter their magical display, no matter their incredible expression that is so distinct and clear. Their essence is awakened awareness and nothing else. And as we're resting naturally, when that perception appears, we see that it just vanishes naturally. It's its own undoing. We never have had to do anything about these points of view at all. They vanish in and of themselves, like the flight path of a bird in the sky. There's nothing we need to do about them. When we rest naturally, then we see that there's maybe a gap between the points of view, maybe not, and then another point of view, and we see that the next point of view, that too comes from awareness. That's awareness and nothing else. It's just the dynamic energy of awareness, separate from it, like the brilliance of a diamond is inseparable from the diamond. So inseparable from it. No matter what the point of view is, it's entirely inseparable from awareness. But unless we have the direct experience of that, we can't know it's real. We cannot know it's real. We cannot know that that is the origin, the essence, the underlying basis of the point of view. If we just think about it and read lots of books on awakening and say, oh yeah, sounds good, I know that's true, we can know forever that it's true, but unless we have the direct experience of the reality of what we are and continue to strengthen that through natural rest, we'll never know what we are. If we're waiting around, maybe we've heard, if awakening's supposed to happen to you, it will, and if it isn't supposed to happen, it won't. Maybe that's one of the things we've heard. Awakening, it happens spontaneously. You never know where it's going to pop up, and you'll never know who's going to be awareness and who isn't. Well, if we've heard something like that, then it's important to know that's just a point of view. That's a point of view. Although awakening does happen spontaneously once in a great while for someone, to wait for it is to spend a lifetime hoping that something will happen and fearing that it won't. It's to spend an entire lifetime wrapped up in that. If awareness were not already present, where would it come from once it's recognized? If awareness were not already present, where would it come from when it's recognized? So you see, there have never been two. There's only awareness, awakened awareness, already accomplished as our true nature. And it's likely we've learned a lot of things other than that. Maybe you've heard what I'm saying here before, but I doubt that you've heard it in such a direct way, in such a direct and easy way. Because almost all teachings, even though they may call themselves a teaching of non-duality, they talk about a personal identity that needs to be fixed. A personal identity who's in trouble. And a personal identity who's living a life of crisis and ordeal and has all these uncontrollable mechanisms going on within it. And that all of these are the pain body, or are called something like that, and they need to be quelled in order to ever have a possibility of being enlightened. Well, in the Great Freedom teaching, we don't talk about a personal identity that needs to be fixed. There's only awakened awareness inclusive of all points of view. A personal identity is equal to every other point of view. Dog, cat, muscle spasm, falling in love. They're all points of view that are equal. We can prove this to ourselves in a very straightforward way, and that is just to sit here and ask yourself, how often do I really have the point of view, yeah, I'm somebody. I'm so-and-so. I'm sure of it. Well, we rarely have that point of view. So to say that a point of view we rarely have is a fixed entity that somehow is in between awareness and our realization of it is to spend a lifetime all wrapped up in some kind of illusory thing that needs to be fixed. So this is all part of the realm of cause and effect, where there has to be some kind of cause. There has to be some kind of cause that made us not realize that we're awareness. And that cause must be me. That's what we say. That cause must be little old bad me. Bad me. The me who needs to be fixed. Well, if we spend our life trying to fix ourselves and taking ourselves to be somebody who needs to be fixed, we'll never see anything else, because there's never any end to this illusory personal identity. So, when we hear this talk about lifetimes, which is also a point of view, or reincarnation, or karma, or original sin, all these are points of view. They're points of view arising in awareness, all equal, all absolutely equal to any other point of view. When we hear all these points of view, no matter what they are, we need to just come to a full stop, put the brakes on, wham, just and ask ourselves, well, how did I decide that I am subject to these things? How did I decide I am subject to? How did I decide I am I, first of all, and then how did I decide that this I has all these fearful consequences called original sin if we're from the West, karma or reincarnation if we live in other parts of the world, and other things too in other cultures. How did I decide that I am these things? Well, none of us had these things as an original idea. All of these things are things we've adopted from other people. So, it is so urgently important for us to realize who we are. And by the way, it's fun too. So it's an adventure. It's a really joyful adventure. The complete enjoyment body of living life the way that we're meant to live it. The complete enjoyment. We're not meant to be racked with all these points of view all the time. We're meant to live a life of ease, of total ease, no matter what it is. So please, no matter what you've learned in your family, in your community, in the culture you live in, or in the world culture, stop, put on the brakes, and really inquire, how is it that I came to take myself to be all this? And can I just rest as awareness? Can I do that for a while and examine all these things that I've taken on, that I've been so sure have some kind of a law or effect, an immutable law? That means a law that cannot be changed. Well, all of these things they're all teachings of duality. Even if they're wearing a dress that says I'm non-dual, they are not non-dual. Please don't ever misunderstand. Do not ever misunderstand. These are not teachings of non-duality. Even if they posit some kind of goal of non-duality, the practice too must conform in every expression with a direct language, a direct teaching, a direct introduction to more and more of the full evidence of awakened awareness. And if it doesn't, then it isn't an authentic non-dual teaching. So, what it comes down to is we are awakened awareness, vast as infinite space. If that seems like a stretch for you to buy, then just relax, take some time to look into the vast space of the sky. Allow your awareness to mingle, to blend with the vastness of what you really are. Take some time to get acquainted with that, to just get familiar with it, to be at ease. You don't have to sit in a what is it called? The
Lotus.
lotus, or Vajra position, or whatever you want to call it, you know, where you have both of the feet up on the thighs. You don't have to do any of that. You can lounge on the couch, you can just sit casually in a chair, you can lie down in your bed and look out the window, whatever it is. There's no special position that's required. You know, the Buddha said the same thing. He said, being cross-legged isn't necessary. He said, if you want to be cross-legged, that's fine. This was the ultimate teaching of the Buddha. You know, there have been a lot of other things people are calling Buddhism, but when we look at what the Buddha actually taught, this is what he said. He said, if you want to sit cross-legged, you can. He said, you know, really, folks, he said, I engaged in 6 years of austerities, doing all these extreme things to my body. And all it did was make me weak, tired, and almost dead. This is exactly what the Buddha said. And this is one of the teachings he received from one guru he went to. He successively left 3 gurus after realizing what the guru had realized. And then he knew there was still something missing, so he gave it all up. The practices suggested by the gurus, including the austerities, the physical austerities, and extremes, and he just sat there. He was determined. He sat casually, you know, in the shade under a Bodhi tree. It was hot where he lived, so he wanted some shade. And he just sat there, and he was so committed. He said, I am not giving up. I'm not giving up. He said, I'm going to sit here until I realize enlightenment. But you know what his motivation was? Let me tell you a little story about his motivation. Well, Buddha was a prince. We all know that. So he lived in a castle. Princes live in castles, royal castles. And this was an enormous castle, and it was surrounded by 4 walls, one in each cardinal direction. And each of those walls had a door. So, you know, most of his life he'd just been there in the palace. He never went outside the palace at all because he had everything there. You know, everything he needed was given to him throughout his life. So one day he said, you know, he was in his late 20s, he said, wonder what's outside the 4 walls. Think I'm going to take a peek. And so he went out one of the doors and he saw an old man, a very old man. He said, wow, that man is very old. And the man looked like he was suffering, and he said, he's very old, and when people are old, they suffer. So then he came back in, and he went out one of the other gates, and he saw someone who was sick. And he said, ooh, you know, people get sick. All these things had been hidden from him because he was a prince. He said, people get sick, and they suffer. He went back in the palace. He went out one of the other gates, and he saw someone dying. Oh, then he really saw suffering, you know, and he also saw what was in store for him. It was in store for him, for his wife, his child, his mother and father. He knew then this is what is in store for every human being, the suffering of dying. So he went back in the palace, and he just said, I can't live like this anymore. There's too much suffering, and I've got to find the end of suffering. So this was his motivation. I've got to find the end of suffering. Well, you see, that was the Buddha's awakening when he said that. That was the Buddha's awakening. What awakened in the Buddha, and this is the only true awakening, it is the awakening of enlightened intent. And that means that when enlightened intent awakens, the whole life is committed to the enlightenment of all beings. So if enlightened intent is not present in every word, in every thought, in every action of the person's life, it is not a completely perfect awakening. So you see, this was his motivation, what in Buddhism is called bodhicitta. And he was determined. He would not stop. It didn't matter what any guru said or what any of the forms of his culture said, what Hinduism said, this religion he'd been part of all of his life, what the royal realm of his family life said. No matter what anyone had said, he could care less because enlightened intent had awakened in him. And enlightened intent said to the Buddha, this message is not correct. This message is not correct. This message of enlightenment is not correct. It's not correct because it doesn't produce the result of no more suffering. You see, when enlightened intent is alive, it can guarantee the end of suffering. It guarantees the end of suffering with every thought, every word of speech, and all actions completely committed to the enlightenment of all being, and nothing else is ever going on other than that. So you see, this was the Buddha's awakening, the awakening of enlightened intent. Any other kind of awakening was more of the full evidence of that. So this is very interesting, isn't it? This is very interesting because many of us today hear many ideas about awakening. 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, for us to come in touch with so much information about awakening was absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible, let alone some of these pristine texts that have only been translated within the last few years. The texts of the direct message, the unerring message that poured directly out of enlightened intent. When a message like that is read, any other book that's ever been read about awakening pales in comparison. Any teaching ever read pales in comparison. It can't even hold up because the message pierces the heart, Every single word pierces the heart. It's unerring, it's relentless. It can never give up because it's enlightened intent, So this is very important for us to know about ourselves because every single point of view we have, it is enlightened intent. No matter what the point of view is that we have, it is enlightened intent. But first, like the Buddha, we have to be committed to ending all suffering. You see, when he said, I'm going to end all suffering, he included himself in that. It wasn't like everybody else is suffering and I'm not. He said, wow, I'm really in suffering. I'm going to get old. I'm going to get sick and I'm going to die. And I don't know how to be with that. I have no idea how to be with that. I've never learned that being a prince. Even being a prince, I don't know how to do that. So what the Buddha arrived at under the Bodhi tree was his teaching. His teaching. And his teaching is the teaching of freedom and immediate perception. This is the teaching the Buddha taught. This teaching, and many people awakened with the Buddha. People don't even know how many, but maybe thousands, maybe tens of thousands, who knows, maybe even 100,000 or more. People, he taught for 50 years, so that's a very long time. And then the epitome teaching of Buddhism, which is called Dzogchen, this message has been handed down in Dzogchen. It's a very difficult message to get, a teaching about. Extremely difficult. If you try to get a teaching on Adi Yoga, it will be extremely difficult to get. Extremely difficult to get because there will be all kinds of preliminary practices required almost all the time. So, the preliminary practices that may be important, however, are inseparable from the full evidence of awareness. So, the preliminary practice is to realize, as the Buddha instructed, that each point of view, or as the Buddha called it, phenomenon, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. This is what the Buddha said. But the Buddha didn't just say form is empty, it's an inert void, as is sometimes postulated. The Buddha said, awareness is the natural presence of compassion and wisdom. Empty awareness, the empty basic space of timeless awareness, is the natural presence of compassion and wisdom. And that aware basic space that is empty, naturally present, and the emanation of compassion and wisdom, that is the entirety. That is the basic space of all phenomenon, of every single point of view. So this teaching of natural rest is very old. It's what the Buddha arrived at, but there were great beings before the Buddha who also taught this teaching of natural rest. And there are great beings still teaching it. So for 17,000 years that I've been able to find, since Shenrab Miwoshe, a Buddha who lived a very long time ago, 17,000 years, we'd all agree that's a very long time ago. He lived a long time ago in Tibet. He came up with the same conclusion. Well, wherever this is taught, this freedom and immediate perception, many people awaken. Many people awaken. It's just like, you know, when you want to buy a good electronic equipment, you might buy Sony. You might buy Sony because that always works and you can get good customer service. So it's the teaching that has delivered the result. You know, when we're looking for something we really want, we want to go somewhere where we can get that result. We don't want to go somewhere where we can't get the result. The teaching of natural rest delivers the results. In just, 50 years ago, within the last 50 years, there lived a Lama. He taught the teaching of natural rest. He didn't care about the preliminaries because all he was the lifestyle of enlightened intent. Let's call it that. He was just the whole lifestyle of enlightened intent. He didn't care about the preliminaries. Anyone who came to him and asked him for the teachings on natural rest, he'd give them every single teaching they wanted. And with him, over 100,000 people woke up, not to just this freedom from mental concepts that's written about in all the popular books, but to omniscience as well. Over 100,000 people, omniscient, timeless awareness. So how many have ever heard that? How many knew that? How many knew there were that many people who awakened with one teacher? So you see, it's very important for us. You see, when we are all caught up in points of view, we have no discernment. We don't even have elementary discernment to look into something like enlightenment. Well, I want something, I want this for myself, enlightenment. Maybe this enlightened intent has awakened in me, but maybe not. Maybe I want to end the suffering of myself and other beings, or maybe I just want to end the suffering of myself. But most of us make a decision about that just based on a lot of cause and effect factors. We don't really look into it. We don't look into it with unerring discernment. We don't say, okay, I really want this, so I'm going to find out where it's happening. Where it's happening. Or we might hear something about it happening somewhere. Oh, there's this kind of spectacle going on here, or that kind of spectacle going on there, and I'll go there and see if something can happen to me too. But we do all this many times without really even knowing what awakening is. We haven't identified what awakening is, so we're not even really sure what we're looking for. So, wherever this teaching of natural rest has been so directly available, it's very clear on what completely perfect enlightenment is. Incompletely perfect enlightenment, the body, speech, and mind of the individual, so to speak, becomes totally enlivened with the exalted body, speech, and mind of enlightened intent, of the full expression of completely perfect enlightenment. And the full expression of completely perfect enlightenment is one magnificent blessing. In other words, there's magnificent blessing shown in a very profound way. 2, there is the conferring of the direct experience of awareness. So not an experience you have to wait forever for, but from the beginning there's the conferral of the direct experience of awareness, and then over time the full evidence of that becomes more obvious. That's the 3rd miraculous expression of completely perfect enlightenment, that instructions are given by that person that lead to the full evidence of enlightenment, unerringly, unrelentingly, for many people, not just for a few. And the 4th miraculous activity is exalted activity. Exalted activity primarily in the teaching realm of a real teaching that's written down. So a real teaching that's written down that can be counted on by people over a long period of time. And a teaching that speaks only about this direct reality of everything as awareness and nothing else. So it doesn't say you've got to do this or you've got to do that or be a certain way. It says all points of view, no matter what they are equal. All phenomena are equal. No matter what their description, all phenomena are equal. And then the other part of exalted activity is places for people to come together and study and practice. The practice of natural rest. So this is another of the incredible expressions. Now, in each of us, we're not all moved to teach. And certainly today, more than ever, we need completely, perfectly enlightened people in all areas of life. We don't just need teachers of enlightenment. We really do need teachers of enlightenment, direct teachers of enlightenment. But we also need people in every area of life. We need people in government. We need people in education. We need people in healthcare. We need people with the non-dual perspective everywhere. We need bus drivers with the non-dual perspective, people designing software technology with the non-dual perspective, internet technology, telecommunications, all these things that we're already manifesting that show us that we're inseparable. You know, today we know all kinds of people, many of us all over the globe, will never even see their body. You know, we know them only as an electronic body. We can't really prove that they are somebody somewhere, can we? No, we really can't. Nor can we prove that all these web pages came out of anywhere other than pure space. Well, that's because we never came out of anywhere other than pure space. We are pure space, and that's all we are. That's all we've been from the beginningless beginning. So just relax, rest. Know that you are who you are, and if you keep coming back here, you will realize that. You will realize that. I won't just say you might realize it, or a few will, but most of you won't, or anything like that. What I say is once you're introduced to it, then you have to make a commitment to it. Well, this commitment has to be more important than anything else. In other words, 100%. It's 100% commitment to the reality of what we are as awakened awareness. It doesn't mean we have to run away from anything or change our circumstances. Whatever our circumstances are, they're fine because they're awakened awareness too. Rest, be awareness for a while, then you'll know whether you're supposed to change your circumstances or not. But don't do anything on impulse. When this commitment is made that is 100% above all else, and it's placed above everything in life, and it really is more important than anything in life, because it's the only thing you see that can support us on our deathbed. There won't be anything else there to support us, even if our loved one is standing right next to us whispering sweet nothings in our ear. That's not going to help. That's not going to help. It might soothe it a little bit, but we're dying. You know, we're dying, and none of our good memories are going to go with us. Our bank account really isn't going with us. Our clothes, our hairdo, none of that's going with us. In fact, our whole body isn't going with us. So, you know, when we're free in all of our other perceptions leading up to death, then we can rest assuredly that we'll be free as that perception too. That it'll only be awakened awareness resolving in the basic space of its own awareness. That's all death will be. But awareness will know definitively and conclusively by that time is not bound by such measly, paltry points of view as birth, life, and death. When we live as awareness, you see, we introduce ourselves to what is entirely beyond causes and effects, like birth, life, and death. So we become so familiar and acquainted with that, much more familiar than we ever were with any points of view. In fact, we can't even remember having any points of view. So, you know, by the time it comes to our death, we're completely prepared. And for example, in Buddhism, this is why even the greatest lamas, the Dalai Lama, other great lamas, till the end of their life, they call themselves practitioners. And they call themselves practitioners because they don't know. how they're going to be at death. Are they still going to be able to practice when they're dying? So you see, this is just sort of a safeguard. But today, what I say about that is today we have to know what we are. We have to know more than ever that we're already enlightened, and that this enlightenment is already accomplished. Enlightenment is not a taboo word, a word that nobody can say, because we already are that. To say that we aren't that is just, it's false pride, you know. It's a form of pride, false pride. But you see, we don't ordinarily hear about things like this. So you see, when we're taking ourselves to be something we aren't, unawakened, that's false pride. We haven't really looked into the nature of what we are. So we haven't seen that we already are awakened awareness, that there's nowhere to get to and there's no one going to some kind of perceived destination. So the reality of rest that is so fully evident just in each of us, this is what we want more than anything. We want this complete ease of being that is the essential reality of what we are. In every point of view, this is what we're looking for. Every point of view we go to looking for satisfaction and fulfillment, what we're looking for is this ease, this total and complete ease. So there's no point of view that we have to separate out anywhere else. Every point of view, it is enlightenment. It is total enlightenment. So once we've made the 100% commitment to that, then we'll rest. We'll just do it naturally. But we have to have the 100% commitment first, just like the Buddha did. And then when we rest, more and more we realize that we are that. So based on that, we develop confidence. We develop confidence that we are that. This is simple, straightforward, human. What we are is directly accessible in a simple human way. It doesn't need all these overlays of extreme complexity at all. These are just more points of view that are added to it. And as that confidence grows, we have certainty. Wow, I am that. I am that. I really am that. It all starts with realizing that all points of view, no matter what they are, maybe at first it's our own points of view, are included in awakened awareness. That's all we've ever been. The more we rest as that, the more we realize all the points of view. Not only our own points of view, but all the points of view of other people, a world, a cosmos, black holes, endless galaxies stretching forever throughout eons of time. All that's within us. Anything that we have a point of view about, it's within us. You know, it's the dynamic energy of awareness and nothing else. So we become confident of that. We become certain as that. That's how we're certain. We're not certain of something or confident of something, a subject confident of an object, or a subject certain of an object. We are that. You know, we are that. That's why we're certain. We are that, and we've directly introduced ourselves to it, committed ourselves to it, and then that confidence and certainty, they just become more and more obvious all the time, no matter how long we live. So there's no destination, nor is there anyone going there. There's just this full evidence of magnificent, glorious awareness that is never ending. Even if we lived for 10 trillion years, every single moment we lived, the full evidence of awakened awareness would be more and more glorious. And every single moment we'd just be awed by that, you know, awed as awareness itself. And we'd say, oh, what a life. You know, what a life. What could be better? What could be better? At last, all these trillions of years I've realized I'm awakened awareness, and it only gets better and better. What could we say about that, huh? So you see, the simple reality of this vast space that is complete in itself, that is perfect in itself, is the reality of our own awareness. Our own awareness naturally present. We wouldn't even be aware of being naturally present without this awareness. So this is how we can prove that it's primary. We'd have no awareness of being anybody unless the awareness was there in primary. So this awareness is primary as every point of view. Awareness of being somebody, awareness of not being anybody. Awareness of a self, awareness of no self. You see, all these are just extremes of point of view within awareness. But awareness of no self or awareness of no thought is equal to awareness as a naturally present self. So there's no need to adopt any extreme, either saying I am a self or I'm not a self. We're neither a self nor not a self. So how do you describe that? Can't, just can enjoy it. Can enjoy the natural ease of awareness that's already present, of awareness that is the root of everything. So there's nothing in which awareness is not primary. We can't think ourselves into this or philosophize ourselves into this or twist our bodies into different shapes that make us realize this. We can only be at ease, be totally at ease, and then we know who we are. And we know who we are when we look in the mirror and we're laughing. We're laughing. No longer is the mouth turned down at the corners, you know. The face is shiny and it's happy. And the happiness is inherent happiness. It's happiness, and it's not circumstance dependent. It's not dependent on having a Kit Kat bar, or, you know, this or that. It's or seeing our guru. It's just the reality of what we are. It's the reality of what we are all the time. So we look in the mirror and we go, wow, I was going to have plastic surgery, but now I don't need to do that. I'm looking okay. No matter how old I get, I'm looking okay. Who I am is not this wrinkly, gray-haired body. You know? It's all okay. But you see, the joy that lights up every single point of view is the reality of our own awareness. Every single point of view, it's just a big easy chair of joy. You know, those easy chairs you get in and you push the little lever and the feet go up and the head goes back? Every point of view is just like that. In the U.S., we call them strato loungers. They're just a big strato lounger, every point of view. A strato lounger of natural ease. Strato lounger. So, you know, there's no point of view to be afraid of. No point of view whatsoever to be afraid of. You know, all our urges, and we all have them, by the way, urges that maybe we've taken to be unspiritual, non-spiritual urges. Maybe they're a thought, then followed by another thought of, you know, harming someone. Or maybe they're based on sexual desire or anger or lust or, I already mentioned that, greed, pride, whatever they might be, envy, jealousy, all these different urges. And we have one of those urges, thoughts or emotions, maybe murderous. Maybe some of us have had a murderous urge. Well, when it's gotten right down to it, I've never met anyone who hasn't had a murderous impulse at one time or another. I won't ask for a show of hands on that. So, you know, oftentimes we think, oh, had that murderous impulse, I'll never wake up. Or maybe we actually murdered somebody and nobody knows about it. I murdered somebody, I'll never wake up, you know. I'm going to have to do sadhana for about 10 billion years because of that one. Well, you know, if you're like that and you're in this room, you murdered somebody and nobody knows about it. So you haven't just had the murderous impulse, you acted on it. Just know that there are people on death row who have murdered many more people than you have probably. And they came to this realization of what they are. You know, they came to this realization of what they are. So you see, this is a prison situation that really led to rehabilitation. Do you see what I'm saying? Unless people in prison or the criminals, whatever we want to call them, unless they're really given a direct teaching on who they are, there's no hope of rehabilitation. No hope. You can't say to someone, you're bad, 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 and think that they're going to turn into a good person. It will never happen. It will never happen. You know, some of us were raised in families like that. You're bad, you're bad, you're bad. And we were all raised in cultures like that. You're bad, you need to be fixed, something's wrong with you. No matter how long you live, you'll always have something about you that needs to be fixed. So, you see, we need to know that no matter who we are or what we've done, we already are awakened awareness. And the only way we can come to complete peace with ourselves and whatever it is that we've done is through knowing ourselves as awakened awareness. That's it. There's no other. If you want to do other practices, go ahead and do them. But just know that the practice is a point of view, too. You know, the practice is a point of view. It's awakened awareness that's equal to any other point of view. So anyone who's engaged in intensive sadhana, in waking up at some point, the realization is reached, wow, you know, I've been living here in the ashram or monastery for 20 or 30 years, but I just realized that if I'd been living in Iowa farming corn, I could have had the same realization. Or living in Germany building Volkswagens or whatever, you know, I would have had the same realization if I had been as committed to it as I have been living in this ashram or monastery. So see, everyone who ever wakes up has to come to this realization that who we are is not circumstance dependent. It's not circumstance dependent, and it's not dependent on whether we have good thoughts or not, or sweet emotional states or not, or sweet actions or not. We need to know this more than ever, we as humankind, because what we're doing right now is most of us are looking at ourselves and saying, well, I know I have a lot of negative thoughts and I have a lot of negative emotional states, even though I never tell anyone about that. So because I know that about myself, I fear myself. And I always have to know that I have to fix myself. And because I fear myself, I fear everybody else. Because I know they too, because I have all these emotional states and thoughts that are negative, that everybody else has them too. So gotta be wary, you know. Everybody's another. Gotta watch out for them. I'm somebody and everybody's another to me. So this is the nature of living from cause and effect. We think that there's a personal identity that is the cause, and the effect is to fix ourselves up, you know, to spend our entire lifetime fixing ourselves up. So we don't have any more time as humankind for these self-improvement projects. You know, the endless self-improvement project. We don't have time. There's mounting tension in the world. We all feel that. And it's more intense than ever before. No one can deny that. It's more intense than ever before. For some of us who are older, we've seen all kinds of wars come and go. The Korean War, the Second World War, some of us, Vietnam War, the Gulf War, what are all the other wars? I mean, they're endless. You know, I have a friend, every day has a printout. He looks at all the wars in the world. He showed it to me once. He said, do you want me to have this sent to you every day? I said, no. No, I already know. And he had it categorized, full-out war, sort of war, threat of war. And it was amazing. It was mind-boggling to look at that thing. I said, no, I only have to see that once, you know, to get the picture. I don't need to see it every day. But you see, this is part of his practice. He's really a great being, and every day he prays for the welfare of the world. So he likes to know exactly what's going on, because much of his life is spent in solitary retreat, praying for all beings, praying for the welfare of the world. So this is his practice. You see, nothing's excluded. Nothing is excluded. But right now we do have this incredible tension in the world. And we as humankind, we need the non-dual perspective desperately. So first, it's important for us to have that for ourselves. Now, a lot of times in some of these popular books written today, it just says, oh, there is no world. You know, there is no world and there's no self, so what? The world blows up, who cares? Well, this is an extreme. This is an extreme. This is not enlightenment. It's just some kind of personal freedom from the burden of mental concepts, but it's definitely not